right, we're clear.
Hello, hope you're doing good. Welcome to GeoPol Talking, or no, GeoOptimistic. Sorry, just barely started with this channel. It's not my first YouTube channel, but it's the first one I've had discussing this sort of stuff. But I would like to address a lot of the misconceptions in America about Ukraine and why our support for Ukraine is very important. And I am going to get it out of the way. I am pro-Ukrainian in the sense that Ukraine should win. It is in our national and strategic interest to have them win. And the number one issue, I believe, for the American people is the cost. That is misrepresented more than I've seen most political issues. Now, the 115 billion that we hear, that includes the cost of this equipment when it was brand new. And it doesn't account for the advances in technologies, the advances in the manufacturing process, and how much cheaper they get to produce years down the line than they are day one. And we are using the day one numbers when, unfortunately, just maintaining these vehicles alone without sending them to Ukraine is a constant cost to our military until they have to decommission them, which is another expensive cost. So from that front, what we're giving them, or loaning them, but also with what we're giving them, they're helping us clear out old stock, make way for new vehicles, new weaponry that we are currently producing. The M1A1 Abrams came out in the 80s. It was used in the first Gulf Wars, used in a bunch of other theaters as well. That is not the M1A2. It's not even the newest revision of the M1A1. And same goes for the F-16s. Those have been around since at least the 80s, I believe. And we are replacing those with our new F-35s. We've already got other newer fighters that have been slowly reducing the stockpile, or clearing out space for the new stockpile is a goal, whether it's through mothballing, decommissioning them. But they have to pay a crew, they have to pay people to keep these vehicles in somewhat working order when they're not being used. You know, they should keep them in stock just in case. But almost every single vehicle and munition that we have sent to Ukraine was designated to be dismantled and recycled, basically. And that is one of the biggest misrepresentations of the actual financial cost. And now the second is where this becomes a net gain for the United States. There were a few HIMARS sent to Ukraine, and all of a sudden everybody got to see how incredibly well they performed. So every single one of our allies, particularly Poland, they decided to put in an order for at least 500 of the HIMARS munition systems. And not only that, when our allies donate their equipment to Ukraine, a lot of it is old Soviet stuff. When they do that, they replace and replenish their stocks from American companies, American vehicles, American jobs, stuff that helps our economy, brings up the workforce. We produce more. These things are much more expensive for people to purchase than any of the stuff that we are doing for Ukraine right now. Now, going beyond finances, where, you know, these are not gifts, they're loans. The prices of what we're sending them, none of this stuff is brand new. So those prices don't represent the actual cost that it would be if we sold them today, nor what I mentioned earlier about the preservation of them, the cost of that, just maintaining them, and then decommissioning them. Now, the other thing I would like to get at, which is a constant misconception, is people bipartisan agree that China is the biggest threat we have to our global interests and our national security, but they separate out Russia from the mix. They don't connect the dots. But China owns Russia. If China pulled its economic support from Russia, they stopped doing trade with them entirely, Russia would collapse. Russia would disintegrate. And I would like that to be well known. You can't separate the two. You just can't. It was in China's interest, in a sense, for Russia to invade Ukraine, because it helped him get a test to see the Western response on a theoretical invasion of his to Taiwan. And the balance of power in the world, China would prefer if Russia was involved in that. And China's stated goal with the United States is to supersede it, to undermine it, and to utilize all of our freedoms and liberties against us to damage our country. And they've been doing military training and drill exercises since, I believe, 2008 was the... There's earlier guesses that I have in my mind, but I'm just doing this off the top of the head while I'm playing a game. But they've been doing joint military exercises for over a decade at minimum. And when we can all unanimously agree that China is basically slowly pulling a blade to our throats, the longer we do nothing, the closer it'll be. One thing that we can do right now is continue providing things for our allies to purchase from us and loaning Ukraine equipment, and also producing more of the advanced technology and the advanced weaponry that we have today. So don't separate Russia from China. You can't. And don't confuse the 115 billion with what it costs the taxpayer. And don't forget that the amount of jobs that it brings to our country, resupplying all of our allies, resupplying new, supplying new potential allies, it's gone through the roof. And I will make more of this content. I just needed to get something out there. But yeah, biggest things, finances. It is in our financial interest. It's in our strategic interest. And when it comes to what the stated aim of Moscow is at this point, Dmitry Medvedev, former president of Russia, has said that Russia's borders stop nowhere, and it has been made clear that the Baltics, Poland, all of these NATO members are on the list, are a target to the Kremlin. And Article 5 means an attack on one is an attack on all. We are in the leadership position of NATO the majority of the time, but Poland's doing really good. But if we stop them there, if we stop them in Ukraine, not with our troops, but we just help the troops who are already there that want to fight, they just need the equipment, then we don't have to repeat the mistakes of World War II, where we let so much territory get lost, so many countries fall, just to have our own men and women go die over there, when we just miss out on the opportunity to help one of our future friends maintain its independence and integrity. It's real simple, but a lot of people who talk about it just play a massive game of telephone from one media personality to the next, from one politician to the next.
By the way,
and it costs us less to support Ukraine than it does to maintain the stuff that we already had before we sent it there. It is in our strategic interest to support Ukraine, and as an American taxpayer, I've never been more proud of our money at work, and it is the best investment that we could make as a nation and as for our future. If we want to maintain democracy, peace, and freedom throughout the world, then we've got to make it known that disrupting that peace is going to cause consequences. And when we have a nation that's been attacked, willing to go there, willing to fight, willing to go toe-to-toe with what we thought was the world's second most military, we can't let them down. America didn't get here because of isolationism. America did not get here because they turned their back on people who are fighting just to be our friend. And we had some of the most prosperous times in American history when military production and when the supply and the jobs and all of that we had post-conflict was through the roof. And if we want American jobs, we want more American taxpayers, then we've got to keep the incentive for nations to supply what they have to Ukraine, refill their stockpile with our own, find more and more weapons that are still being maintained and about to be decommissioned so we can save costs there. And remember that Ukraine is getting loaned this stuff for the most part. But yeah, so that's just my minor aggregation for the day. I've got a lot more coming, but needed to do something productive with my my negative feelings towards the misrepresentation, you know. Well, I guess the last thing I'll say, all of the hubbub, all of the malarkey, the just bullshit going on with U.S. domestic politics at this point, it's got nothing to do with Ukraine. the vendetta between two politicians has nothing to do with Ukraine. When only 90 of the 428 or 435, I can't remember, when only 90 of that 435 congressmen and women did not want to support Ukraine, that is 20% against, 80% for.
Come on, we walk from here.
You would never imagine that when you read articles or listen to the news. It makes it sound like the entire country and the majority of one party or another hates Ukraine. Couldn't be further from the truth. When you ask the question to pollsters or people getting polled, should the US keep supporting Ukraine? 68% of the people say yes. When you ask them, should Congress approve another spending bill that includes Ukraine aid, pretty sure that it's like hardly anybody says yes, because one, they hate Congress, and two, that goes along with the earlier misrepresentations that I've mentioned, just about inflating the numbers. But yeah, so thank you for checking out the GeoOptimistic. There will be better and more stuff coming in the future, and I just needed to get something out there because, you know, may the best man win in terms of the fight, right? Like, I really want Ukraine to win. I think it is our national interest to win. And if hearing this you still don't think it's a good idea to support Ukraine, that's fine. But my goal is to reach objectivity, and I will do my best to do that. It was a little bit loosey-goosey and shot from the hip today, but expect more. I hope you're doing really good. I appreciate your time and wish you nothing but the best. Talk to you soon.